Today we're going to be comparing Xero versus QuickBooks, which is the better accounting software solution for you in your small business. Of course, both of them are great options when it comes to small business accounting and managing your income and expenses, profit and loss statements, and really everything you would need with a traditional accounting software. So that's what we're going to be breaking down here in today's video, comparing the pricing, pros and cons, similarities and differences, and everything you need to consider when trying to decide between Xero or QuickBooks. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the comparison. Of course, so first off, what is QuickBooks and what is Xero? So Xero, pronounced Xero, is spelled Xero. Xero is an accounting software for small businesses. Of course, it is easy to use accounting software for your small business. In terms of the features, breaking down Xero first, of course, they have the ability to connect your bank accounts so that you can sync your bank directly and your financials to the cloud. You can have everything in one place, such as your invoices, your contacts, and your accounting online. You can collaborate in real time, and you can invite your advisor, your tax advisor, or work together with your other associates as well. So you can have up to unlimited users, which is really, really nice on Xero. You can also customize it by connecting with other apps or adjusting the customizable dashboard. In addition to that, you can automate tasks like invoicing and reporting, as you can see here. You can do your year-end taxes and just get a general financial picture on your business. Again, like I mentioned before, you can connect your bank accounts as well. You can collaborate with unlimited amount of people, whether it's an accountant, bookkeeper, employees. No matter how many people you have, you can add them, which is really, really nice. You also have a bunch of other different software integrations like third-party apps, such as you can see here, Stripe and Ven. You can go through the Xero App Store, and they really do have a ton of different app integrations. Xero definitely has a lot of app integrations, well over 1,000 different app integrations available within Xero. And just taking a look here, this is sort of what their little dashboard looks like. Pretty easy and simple to understand. So that's generally Xero in a nutshell. Taking a look at QuickBooks, we'll also be comparing some of the similarities and differences here, as well as their different pricing plans. Taking a look at QuickBooks, of course, there are accounting software. You could do receipts, income, bank transactions, manage your bills, expenses, invoicing and payments, really a lot of the same kind of things in general. You can also add on payroll or time tracking. Of course, payroll is an optional addition. So where do they really differ? Some of the biggest places where they differ in terms of accounting software is that QuickBooks does limit the amount of users that you're able to have. This is a really big thing. A lot of people definitely is important if you need to have more than just one or a few users. As you can see here, you can only just have one user on their simple start plan. Of course, this pricing is accurate as in the making of today's video. Be sure to check out the QuickBooks pricing page as well as Xero's pricing page to get the most up-to-date pricing, depending on what special offers they may currently be offering. Of course, all that is subject to change. Now, the fact that you can have unlimited users with Xero is definitely a nice benefit compared to QuickBooks, where you're limited in terms of the amount of users. If you want to have more than 5 users, you have to go all the way up to advanced, which is quite expensive. That's their most expensive plan if you want to have over 5 users without having to share a login. So that's definitely one point on the Xero side of things in terms of users. One other thing to consider as well with Xero and QuickBooks is that, well, QuickBooks is a bit more expensive as well if you're just taking a look at the raw pricing. Of course, depending on when you're looking at this, you may see some limited time special pricing offers, but in general, Xero does have a cheaper entry level with their early plan, which is a little bit cheaper, about half the price as the simple start plan with QuickBooks Online. So that's something to consider if you're just looking at what is the cheapest option that you can go with. Well, Xero definitely is a little bit cheaper since they do have that early pricing plan available. Where do they differ as well? Another aspect is in terms of the amount of quotes and invoices that you can send. So if you want to send quotes and invoices on the early plan with Xero, taking a look at Xero's pricing page here, is that you are limited to 20 invoices with their early plan. If you want unlimited invoices, you do have to go to their growing plan, which at that rate is a little bit more expensive than even the simple start plan which has unlimited invoices that you can send unlimited invoices with the Simple Start. So that's something to consider there in terms of how many invoices do you need to send. In terms of adding payroll, QuickBooks does have their own payroll plans that you can use. They also have other third-party integrations, but they really do want, obviously, push you towards their own payroll services as a software. Whereas Xero, they do not have their own payroll, but per se, they have an optional add-on of payroll with Gusto, which is really nice that they have that direct integration with Gusto because, in my personal opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, Gusto is the best payroll software solution out there. And Xero does have a direct integration with Gusto in order to use them as payroll as an optional add-on. Again, they don't have their own payroll software, but they do have that Gusto integration, which a lot of people want to use Gusto anyway, which is really nice. Whereas QuickBooks, they do have their own payroll, which is cool if you want things just all kind of within the QuickBooks ecosystem. But that's something to consider there. In terms of the pricing of the payroll, really about the same in terms of what you would expect to pay with Gusto payroll versus QuickBooks payroll in terms of adding that to your accounting software if you're interested in that. I know a lot of you guys, maybe you don't need that. Then it's optional. Again, that's just an optional thing worth considering as well in terms of their integrations and add-ons and comparing the two different softwares. As you can see here, again, Gusto payroll plays nice with Xero if you do need that in your accounting software in terms of adding on payroll as an optional add-on. Now, in terms of other features that are worth considering, the differences here is that, in general, Xero is a bit easier to use in terms of the overall design and look and feel. That Xero is definitely a little bit simpler and lower of a learning curve compared to QuickBooks software. QuickBooks definitely has a little bit more of a learning curve in terms of its ease of use. It's not too difficult. You get the swing of things, you start using it. It's really not too difficult to use. But at the end of the day, Xero is definitely a little bit more basic and easier to use. That depends on, of course, if you want things more basic, maybe you want things a little bit more advanced with the advanced reporting that QuickBooks has available. But if you're just looking for something easier to use, then maybe Xero could be a better bet for you just because their dashboard is a little bit more customizable, a little bit more simpler. Again, QuickBooks has added some more customizability to it, which is nice, but in general, Xero sort of wins in that department in terms of ease of use. Now, again, one other thing to consider as well, again, lots of things to consider between the two different softwares, is that Xero is a little bit less popular, especially in the US compared to QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a lot more popular of a software. Now, where does the popularity really matter? This matters really mostly if you're looking at hiring out bookkeeping or accounting services, is that more bookkeepers and accountants are familiar with using QuickBooks, at least here in the States. In the US, it may be a little bit different depending on what country you're located in, but at least here in the States, the QuickBooks is much more popular software solution. So a lot more bookkeepers and accountants are familiar with it. It's going to be a little bit easier to get them to use just accounting or bookkeeping services and having them give them access to your books. Xero is gaining in popularity as well in terms of accountants and bookkeepers. So it is gaining in popularity, but it may be just a little bit less popular, so it's maybe a little bit more difficult in terms of sharing your accounting with your accountant, or sharing your books rather with your accountant. So that's just a little other thing to consider. It's not the end of the world. It's just in terms of popularity and where that may make a difference for you. In general, ultimately, if you need a lot more users and for much cheaper price in terms of having unlimited users, definitely go with Xero in terms of having more users. In terms of other things that are worth considering is that if you need just general bulk transaction reconciliations, you do have to go to their growing plan with Xero, whereas that's sort of more included with the more base versions of QuickBooks. So it is something else worth considering in terms of the pricing and planned features for QuickBooks is just, in general, with their software, you get more with their base version of Simple Start. And really, Simple Start is the best for most people using QuickBooks online, is that you just get more with their base version versus sort of Xero and their base version or even Xero's cheaper version. But if you're looking for something cheaper, then obviously Xero definitely has a cheaper plan available compared to QuickBooks. Now, technically the cheapest plan with QuickBooks is QuickBooks Self-Employed. I'm not really talking too much about that in this video because that's really more aimed at freelancers and solopreneurs or those who are sole proprietors. Self-employed QuickBooks, QuickBooks Self-Employed is really a completely separate software. It is more aimed for freelancers. So hey, maybe if you're a freelancer, it's worth checking that out. All you have to do is go over to QuickBooks Self-Employed and go to the freelancer business stage. But most of you guys watching this are probably a little bit above that, maybe a little bit more advanced, maybe want a more scalable solution. So generally, QuickBooks Online, especially the Simple Start, is best for most people getting started, especially if you need a more end-to-end accounting software solution for your small business, much more comparable to Xero in general, the QuickBooks Online. Ultimately, it depends on what your specific needs are in your business. Again, hopefully you found this comparison video helpful.